There's a backup name tag. Right. But you can, then you can use, then you go on vacation. You guys,
My pants pocket from the last, from the breakfast we had.
It's like, what am I supposed to do?
Everywhere
For 3
but
weeks I get
the pants pocket.
I know.
So
take it at home, have a staycation.
keeping in a safe location.
No, no.
That-
We have family. We have to go see. Family we want to see.
Good, how are you doing? I need to sell mine. 'Cause I'm never gonna go anywhere. I can't get away.
Yeah, we had such an nausea.
Yeah, did you guys go trick or treating or did you hand it out?
My daughter was sick, but my husband.
It was busy up in the neighborhood.
Our neighborhood was even really busy, and normally it's, most
Yeah.
people like
They go to-
straight. Yeah, and just like do a straight line, right? But
Oh my gosh, don't I
we're in our
know?
neighborhood.
Some people make the loop around.
Literally, I mean, like I still am in shock. I opened up my door and literally my entire yard was full of kids. There was like 25 of them. And I sat there for like 10 minutes handing out candy without even closing the
Yep,
door.
you're like, never gonna be able to close this door.
Like, I'm not gonna make it the night because I'm not gonna have enough candy.
That's all I do is wait for yeah. I sleep a few hours in between and then start over. That's it.
Who's that? Oh. We'll be able to talk about it. Oh, they
How
didn't
would you not dress up the 2-year-old? Like, seriously. That's the kid, that's one of the cutest.
Baby Mandrake with their wizard parents. There's the baby screaming as a Mandrake. You know Hogwarts.
Should be a good night.
No.
I know.
Sorry. Sorry for you for not knowing the reference because it's hysterical.
Yeah. All right, is everybody ready?
Yeah.
All right, it's 6:30, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearings. We'll start with the 2022 budget supplements, Resolution 513, 529, 540, and 542.
So the budget resolutions, we're required to have those at a public hearing. So this is our public hearing for the 2022 budget supplement. So we have 4 of them. The first resolution is 513. It was originally passed the first day of March 2022. It was for $845,486. Basically, it was for the street intersection, and of course, there was a contingency that anything over the $500,000 that came from the school district would come back to the Board of Trustees. And you may recall that we did have a contract for SEH to do the engineering up to 60% for that intersection. The next one, and that is in the street fund. The next one, 529, that was originally approved on the 19th of July, 2022, was for $133,504. That's for the Southwest Post grant that we are a fiscal agent for, and because that money is reimbursed and expensed out of the town budget, we need to have a budget supplement. That was number 2. The third one, Resolution 540, was originally approved on September 20th of 2022. That was for $71,500 additional expenditure in the general fund for Spillman and for the infrastructure to update our broadband bandwidth to accommodate Spillman and any other dispatch system. And then another $71,000 basically transfer from the capital fund to the general fund for that same purpose. And then the last one, which has not been previously reviewed, is $10,000. You may recall that during our audit, we were out of compliance because our expenditures in our garbage fund exceeded our budgeted amount. However, we did not receive the 2021 billing until March of 2022. So after 3 months, we were not aware that we were over. There were some billing inaccuracies in the garbage fund. So just to be safe, this is an additional $10,000 budget through this public hearing for our garbage fund to make sure that we don't run into that same dilemma. And of course, we'll pay attention up to as close as we can to the last meeting in December to make sure that everything, that your budget, your 2022 budget does not, the expenditures do not exceed the budget of 2022, including these supplements. And I'm open for any questions regarding those supplements.
Does the board have any questions on those? Do we have anybody in the audience that has any questions on those or comments? Okay. We will move on to our 2023 budget public hearing.
So I'll start this. The budget was submitted and ready at the end October 12th. In a day, it was ready and was sent to our website, our old website, and to the Board of Trustees on the 13th of October. So it has been available in more than 2 weeks. By state statute, we're required to have a public hearing for our our annual budgets. So we have followed the state statute regarding the Bayfield budget. We have also supplements, resolutions adopting the budget. That's the 2023 budget, the annual appropriation. In other words, annual appropriations means that we can spend that money. I do have some contingencies on those appropriations. The mill levy certification, the constrained fund balances, and the wage scale for 2023. And I will have just a minor adjustment to that wage scale when we get there. So I have the budget work sessions and meetings. We had the first one was July 25th. And we've had either at a separate work session or just during the meetings that you have had. My contingencies, which I would suggest that would be considered within the adoption of the budget, is a park seasonal employee, which would be a part-time or seasonal, and the facility and grounds maintenance, which would be a full-time job. If this budget is approved, we would come back to the Board of Trustees with job descriptions and the matter of justifying how those positions will be paid for out of the 2023 budget. The other one, probably the bigger one, is the stormwater management. I believe that in going through this budget, we are unfunded for the projects that are in this budget, and I believe that even though it's a balanced budget, in other words, there's enough reserves and revenue to cover the expenditures, I believe that there's not really, you're going to run out of funding to do other things like manage streets or law enforcement or Parks and Rec programs. So you're going to have to figure out how we're going to fund stormwater management. And then the sewer capital improvement estimates are higher than expected. We do have ARPA funding that was projected to spend for some of these improvements. However, I do ask that it may not be a contingency, but the Public Works Director come back with those final numbers when we have those as we get closer, which our goal is to finish that in 2023. Because they are ARPA funds, they do have to be spent soon. The personal and labor expenditures, there's additional FTEs in there. Code enforcement is part-time. The receptionist is part-time and also asking for a full-time sewer collection and distribution employee as well. There are some minor changes in para, FPPA, and unemployment. And we are also determining where we have overtime and on-call, actually documenting those. And of course, for the Marshal's office, we're documenting that through October, and hopefully we'll have a better figure on that. But we think we're fairly close. We know that we're going to have a lot of overtime in the Marshal's office just because we're short on staff at this point. So. We would like to move some of the uniform and clothing allowances basically to one item, and so that employees are accountable for the uniforms or clothing that they would be purchasing. The only thing that would be exempt from that is things like bulletproof vests and items that are more expensive and are not necessarily an annual replacement. A bulletproof vest is, I think, 3 to 5 years, as I remember. We have the community partnerships and nonprofits. You may recall that there was an adoption of the Resolution 532 regarding basically a grant process versus them coming to you prior to the budget year. They'll come to you during that budget year and ask for those funds, and of course possibly more direct a relationship between whatever program they're operating and whatever funding they may be getting. And we have had in the past, we've provided funds to nonprofits, and those checks have not been deposited. So we are canceling those checks, and basically if that nonprofit did not accept those funds or cash those funds, there's no responsibility for us to try to reach them on another year for them to cash our check or deposit our check. The goals are on page 5. That included the Dove Ranch detention area was the first one, A1, and then stormwater management, AB, or 1B. Of course, I feel that we have some shortfall in actually funding those items. And of course, on page 6 is the item regarding the actual shortfall. So we have $511,000 that we're short in funding stormwater, basically looking at the capital improvement list. So there are major projects, community development. We are working on the comp plan working group. We're looking at land use codes, oil, gas, noxious weeds, revitalization of Mill Street, and other regulations, and then technology upgrades, software implementation as well. Of course, Spillman will be a training, and the sheriff's office has provided some assurance that they will do the training versus the $11,000 for training in Spillman. So we appreciate the sheriff's office cooperation, participation with getting our integrated dispatch system up and running here in a couple months. We are a statutory town, and there are certain requirements that we have to follow in state statute regarding the adoption of the budget. So I'm excited about 2023. Obviously, I've been here since the pandemic started. I see a lot of positive things that we're going to do here in Bayfield. I think you have some good staff, good members, department directors, a lot of positive energy, and we're moving forward with some great projects in the town of Bayfield. It is a balanced budget. And so the total expenditures that we're looking at is $17,344,330. The revenue that we anticipate is $13,909,213. And the reserves at this time are $10,080,611. And so we do have a difference after this time is over, is $6,253,293 that will be remaining in your cash accounts. And that's what I have. And we'll pass that on to Community Development Director for her brief report.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. So a couple brief things. As Katie had mentioned, some of our big projects are capital improvements. So stormwater, right now we have that deficit if we want to fund all our proposed stormwater projects for 2023. We're also looking at quite a few projects coming out of the street fund. The Bayfield East Signal, right now we have the funding to do 60 to, up to 60% design, and so we need to take it from 60 to 100, as well as pay for the construction of that. We have the pedestrian highway crossing that we received a grant from CDOT on, and so we hope to start that in the spring. We have sidewalks on Mill Street. We just got a grant to do the east side of Mill Street. With the match, we are also going to be looking at the central section of Mill Street next year. Looking at the West Mill Gateway project that we want to do out here on this west side, as well as some signage, electronic signage, and wayfinding throughout the community, and also working with hopefully the historic museum to replace the historic walking tour signs that have been in bad shape, that are in bad shape. And then the biggest one, Simmon Heights infrastructure, is from the housing fund. We just applied for a grant to cover that 100% of what we need. So hopefully we will have good news on that in early 2023 as well. And then, so that's mostly from streets and then housing. And then in terms of community development, I think our biggest thing we're requesting is just some additional technology. iWorks, we've implemented iWorks for building permitting as well as code enforcement for 2022, and it's going really well. And so we want to move forward with the land use and zoning so we can do all our development reviews through that platform starting in 2023. And we're working on the public facing portion of it right now so that applicants can submit their building permits and pay their fees through this new platform versus coming down to town hall, as well as submit their plans digitally, and it'll be the same for development review for next year. So coming a long way on that one. And that's all I have.
So next I have the interim marshal.
Madam Mayor, Board of Trustees, good evening. The Marshal's Office is proposing a budget that's just under 16% increase. We're looking at a personnel increase of about $129,000. Of those, significant increases are salaries, which is $79,525. This is associated with wage adjustments and wage scale increases to put our marshals in a more competitive position with other local agencies. From my perspective, this is a much needed move, and I think it will benefit the office in the long run. Additionally, FPPA has increased roughly $15,000. We did increase our overtime budget by $15,000. That's going to correlate to some extra training that we are looking at offering. In the past, the marshals have been expected to comp out their any training hours that they had received. We were expected to build that within their schedules, so they would comp that time out. Under leadership's direction, we would like to see some of those training hours offered in overtime, that they would actually be paid that overtime. Additionally, with with Alex, who's in the academy, we will see some additional costs with her when she comes over. And moving on to, actually, I want to touch on, there's a possibility that we are going to see some savings in salaries next year. Sergeant Cashwell has moved over to the Southwest Drug Task Force. She will be working kind of part-time with the marshal's office and with the task force for a little while, but eventually if she decides that's what she wants to do, she will move over there. And that's a HIDA-funded position. So her sergeant's salary, until we can fill that, there will be some savings there. And I hope this isn't the case, but we do have an additional deputy's vacancy with Dan Abdella leaving. I hope to have that filled before then, but right now we haven't received any Colorado post-certified applicants. Moving on to our operating expenses, we're looking at just over a $56,000 increase in our operating expenditures, which we're proposing. I touched on the training. We put additional $4,000 in the training line item. Building maintenance, this is a new line item. This is the custodial contract. That's a $7,000 increase. Vehicle equipment and maintenance, we're proposing a $15,000 increase in there. And we certainly hope to see some savings in there with the acquisition of 2 new patrol vehicles. But the reality of it is that we're dealing with an entire fleet of vehicles that has mechanical issues that are getting towards the higher end of their miles. So 2 vehicles next year would just be a start in replacing our fleet. We're seeing an $18,000 legal consultation fee. This is the new procedure that we're using with Michael as our prosecuting attorney instead of the marshal participating in those court days. $10,000 in operating. This is we're estimating about $90,000 for 2022, so this is trying to balance out $70 to $90, $80,000. And operating is going to include Spillman, E-Force, Lexipol. We just found out that we have been paying for some Spillman services that we haven't been utilizing. So that's all included in the operating expenses. And then $9,500 for the IT consultation. That's going to include some Spillman stuff, some CAD and integrated dispatch. Moving on to capital improvements, we're seeking $120,000 for 2 new patrol vehicles. We have been approved for a grant that was initially $50,000. I've recently learned that grant has been bumped down to $25,000 to go towards the purchase of 2 vehicles, and $20,000 for tasers. Last week, I received a call from a taser rep that offered us a contract, which would allow us to pay the cost of new tasers, equipment, some training material over a 5-year period. So instead of the $20,000 for that capital improvement, we could stretch that out over a 5-year period and pay about $4,300 a year. And there would be roughly a $4,500 savings by doing that. So I think that's a good route to go. And with Corey's help, we hope to auction off a couple of our older vehicles. We're looking at the 2011 Dodge Durango and 2012 Dodge Charger, the black one. And rough estimates on those, I've seen those vehicles anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000, and they may bring more than that with this current market, but there is some potential revenue there. So that's all I have. If anybody has any questions, feel free to let me know.
Those tasers, they last 5 years? So, okay.
And they're with this bundle is what they call it. They'll be warranted. So if there's any issues during that 5 years, we could send back for replacement.
And save money.
And save some money, yes, ma'am.
So the training you were talking about that you originally had worked into the schedule, but now are asking for overtime to pay for that. What kind of training is that?
It just depends. Each individual deputy kind of has specific training needs. We're required by Colorado Post to get a minimum of 24 hours of training every year. And 12 of that has to be imperishable skills. It has to be driving, arrest control, and firearms. The other 12 can be anything that's law enforcement related. So we do feel that it's important that we continue to invest in our employees and give them the training that they need to do the jobs as the best that they possibly can. And especially in this day and age, there's been such an emphasis put on training and improving our skills in law enforcement. So.
And the other question, the on-call,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean exactly?
Right now, we still have gaps. We don't have 24/7 coverage with our staffing. That's going to continue to be a challenge, especially being short-staffed. So sometimes we'll schedule a night shift deputy to get off at 3 in the morning, and the next day shift deputy will come on at 7. So there's a 4-hour window that we don't have coverage. That particular deputy that worked the night shift would be on call in case something happened in the town. So the way things have generally worked is the sheriff's office, which has 24/7 coverage. They'll respond initially to the call and then wait until the deputy, a lot of times, gets up out of bed, gets back dressed, and responds to the call.
So does the deputy get paid during that time?
Yes, yep. I believe it's $2.25 per hour.
That's correct.
Okay.
So, yeah. And that's new. That's a.
Mhm.
It's new to the marshal's office, not necessarily
Yes, new to the
public
marshal's
works,
office.
so.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Nope.
So I'd
Thank
just
you.
like to clarify a little bit for the training. So I think that it was unfortunate that the employees had to bank their comp time to do training. And in this case, I am a manager that wants to make sure that training is our priority. So that means it basically puts the onus on the town to pay them when they're training. There's certain requirements for travel, for per diem, for other things, that we make training a priority and not put the onus of collecting comp time on the employee. So that's throughout all departments. So next I have the Parks and Recreation Director.
Good evening. I just wanted to, I guess, highlight some of our capital improvement project requests for 2023. So as we've talked about previously, the restroom project at Little Pine Park is one of our items. We have it budgeted at $120,000. That's for a fully heated restroom facility. Obviously would be a major upgrade for our community users. That park is used quite a bit in the summertime, as you all know, and it would be a big upgrade to provide a heated restroom facility. There are potentially cheaper options that, if approved, we could do more research into. We could do non-heated restrooms like we have at Eagle and Joe Stevenson Park, vault toilet, composting toilet. They all kind of have their own pros and cons. But I think addressing over there just the use that it gets in the summer and, what the options are for the people over there to go to the bathroom are not great right now. Moving on, we also are requesting additional funding for park benches, picnic tables, just replacing older ones. Currently, Little Pine, Roadside, Joe Stevenson all have some older picnic tables that we could replace, and benches. And additionally, bear-proof trash cans. We want to outfit the entire, all of the parks in the town with bear-proof trash cans. Barrier netting for the east side of the softball field. That came up, the resident at 631 South West Street, so that sits right behind right field there of the north field, has been bombarded with softballs for quite a number of years, done a lot of damage to their property, at least 3 broken windows. In fact, his son was home the last time the ball went through crashed through a window. So you can imagine what that would be like. And so what we're proposing is a barrier net similar to what is over at the middle school baseball field. If you've noticed that one over there where it's got a net that you can raise and lower, that one's there to protect the school. So this would be, we're budgeting $20,000 for that project. We would need to secure a local contractor for that project because most of the systems don't come with installation. We are looking to do the key card system at the senior center. That would be a big upgrade over there. It would keep us from having to manage keys. It would be easier to, monitor who's in and out of the building at any given time. We're budgeting $15,000. I think it was in the budget initially as a rodeo arena consultant, but we're moving on after receiving word from the Bayfield School District. They are at this time not on board with our park, Joe Stevenson Park Master Plan to relocate the rodeo grounds. They want to hang on to that piece of property. So we are going to be moving on and looking for a redesign of that Joe Stevenson conceptual design. Obviously, this one would include the rodeo where it's at. We'll just get a new plan and then we'll start pursuing grant funding from there. The 3-inch water tap for Joe Stevenson Park irrigation, that would allow us to water the park with municipal water. Right now we use the ditch water, which is great, but the ditch gets turned on in usually around mid to late May and then goes till mid to late September. It just puts us behind the 8 ball every year because, in fall, if you want to plant new grass seed, but then you can't water till late May, we did it. I talked to Mark and we had done that the year before and we lost any new grass that was established. And then, we're just kind of playing catch up. We have sports on those fields in the spring and so this would allow a longer watering season. We could start watering sooner and later in the year with this water tap. The price of the project continues to climb. We got SGM to look at our needs and our gallons per minute and output with our sprinklers, and they suggested a 3-inch tap, and that also would be room for growth as we develop our park plan. And then just a couple other park items that would make our lives a lot easier. The angle broom would be an attachment for our new Toolcat. It can actually remove snow up to I think like 7 or 8 inches. So it's a pretty neat attachment that we could also use to sweep debris, pick up leaves, clear the parking lot, that sort of thing. And then a low-profile dump trailer would really come in handy for us. Same kind of thing. We could use it to haul gravel, dirt, mulch, trees, equipment, all kinds of things. Right now we borrow Public Works, but having our own would be a lot more convenient at times. And then the only other 2 things I had on my list were, Katie touched on the part-time seasonal and the full-time facility and grounds maintenance worker. We're requesting the part-time seasonal because we have 2 full-time parks guys right now and 1 part-time seasonal. And they do it all from, mowing, trimming, weeding, maintenance of sports fields, irrigation systems, parks and playgrounds, special event setup and tear down, maintaining equipment. It's a lot. And, anytime we can have somebody do kind of the day-to-day duties and not pull the parks manager off of, some bigger projects and that sort of thing, it helps us out tremendously. And then, we've talked about the facility and grounds maintenance worker having, someone that's their number 1 priority is maintenance of, these buildings that, we're seeing the effects of deferred maintenance and what that's done to us. And, there's studies that show that for every $1 in deferred maintenance, it costs $4 of capital renewal needs in the future. And I think we're seeing that right now. So hopefully the facility and grounds maintenance worker could also, help out in the department with some other duties. So that's all I have. Do you
What
have
was
any
that
questions?
stat for every $1? What was?
It said for every $1 of deferred maintenance, it costs $4 of capital renewal needs in the future.
Thanks.
Yeah. Any questions? Thank you.
So next is the Public Works Director.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, trustees. Thanks for your time tonight. We're going to go over water, sewer, and some of the streets and circle back around to kind of where Nicole left off with the community development. As Manager Sickles did mention, the capital improvements for the sewer fund are a little bit high this year, but we're also looking at expending those ARPA funds for nutrient removal and diffuser replacement. Diffuser replacement is a piece of equipment that is past its useful lifespan at the sewer plant. So I know you guys, most of you have been on a tour. When we were up on top of the basins, all those bubbles that come out, that's what they come out of, is those diffusers. So we're looking to purchase the software package to meet some of the regulations coming up in 2027 as far as for nutrients discharged back into the Pine River. And while we're doing that, we're also rolling that equipment replacement into that project as well. We're also asking in the sewer fund for an additional utility truck. We did recently outsource some of our antiquated equipment, a 95 and a 96 old utility truck through the public surplus auction, which actually worked out rather well. I think we collected almost $9,000 for both of those older pieces of equipment. That's kind of all I got in the sewer. Moving on to water, you'll see that the capital improvements of water is substantially less. We just finished a really large water line replacement project in 2021, and that was one of the larger projects identified in the water master plan that we adopted in 2018. So a lot of the capital improvements that you're seeing here are SCADA improvements, which are operational improvements for the water plant. We're also looking this year to add SCADA to our distribution system. We had some high pressure complaints throughout town, so we do operate 7 PRVs throughout town that reduce the pressure from different elevations in the distribution system. We'd like to get those operated on SCADA so we can in real time monitor the pressure in the distribution system throughout town. And then moving back into the street fund, you'll see this fund is a little bit high as well too. I think the majority of the projects that the community development director had covered, we're looking for grant funding. It's the east intersection, the Bayfield SUP, which is basically the walk pass for the library, Central Mill sidewalks, and Nicole went through a lot of those. What we're looking at mostly here for public works is some of the annual maintenance. We're really looking at going towards a 3-year contract is what we'd like to do, and hopefully we can see some cost savings in the advertising and some of the contract documents that we're currently having SGM draw up on an annual basis. Like crack sealing, line striping, and some of the surface treatment for our streets, we're doing those on an annual basis. So I really think it would make sense to move towards a 3-year contract and revisit that. And there's substantial cost savings over those 3 years, anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 probably per project moving forward. A lot of the other expenditures you'll see, the mini excavator, some of these are one-time expenditures. You won't see some of this equipment coming back in 2023. A lot of this equipment is for some of the stormwater improvements that we have identified. And if you notice when you do look at the capital improvements in the streets, there's no repaving in here. So with having a lot of the stormwater issues that we opted to tackle in 2023, we kind of moved away from road reconstruction. So we're going to work through that and see if we can't bring back some of those street improvements to you in 2023 towards 2024. And that's kind of all I got. Katie did mention Public Works is asking for another full-time employee. We'd like to fund them through the sewer, and hopefully they can pick up some of the stormwater management that we're looking at coming in the future. We have some additional duties that would be assigned, and then we're also looking at some succession planning within the department. We do have a senior operator that's moving towards retirement age, coming up on 20 years of service. And as he's looking to retire, we'd like to start training someone up within the department. So hopefully we can have somewhat of a seamless transition when that comes. I could answer any questions if you guys had questions.
Are there any, with us moving funds to the stormwater concerns, or our focus to the stormwater concerns and possibly missing out on seal coating?
No, we have the seal coating and the surface treatment, and our annual maintenance of the line striping is worked into this year's budget for 2023. So we're going to maintain that surface treatment. And through American Asphalt and Paving, they do recommend those surface treatments are important. So they say within the first 7 years of a reconstruction or say an overlay, if you can get that surface treatment on, you're really extending the life expectancy of that road by 10 to 15 years. And that's keeping the water out. So we really want to keep up with that surface treatment. Some of the roads we're talking about for reconstruction are in pretty poor condition. If you guys have been up at Tamarack by the water tank site, that's one's in pretty poor condition. We have some other streets in town, Los Pinos, that really need a full reconstruction. So we didn't want to opt out on the surface treatment to preserve the infrastructure we already have. We're just making that trade because we do know there was some stormwater deficiencies we identified this year that we would like to get repaired in 23.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Thank you.
So next I have Finance Director.
I don't think I have a whole lot more to add. Katie went over everything. Later in the meeting, you will be asked to consider 5 resolutions in regards to the budget. Resolution 543 adopts the budget for the calendar year of 2023. Resolution 544 appropriates the sums of money for the various funds. Resolution 545 sets the mill levy for the year of 2023. The mill levy in 2003, in the general election, residents voted in favor of establishing the mill levy at 5.95. And then I will certify that mill levy to the La Plata County Commissioners no later than the 15th of December. Resolution 546 identifies the fund balance amounts as restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. And those resolutions are required by state statute. The last resolution that you'll be asked to consider is the resolution for the wage scale for 2023. And that's all I have.
So just to follow up, just the couple minor changes in the capital improvement plans for the general fund to change the name of Rodeo Arena Consultant to Park Plan Update Consultant. And then the other one would be on Resolution 547. The wage scale is to add the recreation coordinator to wage scale number 6. And that is basically, we do have a recreation coordinator, and for some reason that got missed last year when that FTE was approved, so. And I don't have anything else at this time unless you have questions.
Any further questions from the board?
I don't think so.
We would invite any members of the public to ask questions if they have any at this time.
Brian Blanchard, 627 Louisiana Drive. It seems like things are getting more expensive. Everybody's reports were like going up, which is understandable. But my questions or concerns would be the sewer fund and the road fund are the ones that when I was going through the budgets were the ones that stood out to me that were a little bit of going in the wrong direction. We're kind of, and I could be wrong, but it seems like we're burning through the money that was carried over from last year into this year to balance a budget and to get the things that we do really need. So I guess my comment or concern to the board would be, I think you need to dig in as best you can and figure out how we're going to start paying for some of these things going forward. It appears to me, after following things for about a year now, we're playing catch-up all the time. And somehow, some way, we need to change that direction, whether it's impact fees or however we do that, trimming budgets. But I hate to see the excess money that we've had being used up in the next year or two on things that we do need and not keeping up with a way to generate more money for the town. Thank you.
Anybody else? Does anybody have any comments or concerns or questions?
No, I think I have the same concerns that Brian has, but I mean, we had a stormwater management planning meeting, and of the public who came, no one wanted to increase any kind of tax to fund some of these projects. That's correct, right? I know the signs are still up on the wall over there. But I feel like, I mean, we're going to need to start coming up with how are we paying for things. And I was hearing comments today about, oh, the water fees are going up and sewer fees are going up. And yes, that is catch up because they haven't gone up from what I understand for a while. And so I think we just need to work on communication to the public that those things happened and they weren't going up and now they are. And in order for us to have stormwater management or for us to expand our parks or for us to do things, there is cost associated. So the public needs to be more involved in paying attention to what's going on and providing us their feedback. I was at the library today. They were going over their strategic plan, and I asked the director to provide, well, she was already going to provide Katie the results of interviewing 70 people. I mean, their service district is not necessarily just town of Bayfield, but they had really great feedback. And Phyllis was there too, so if there's anything that you would like to add. But really great feedback on different things that some of it is stuff that we're discussing all the time. And they're like, oh, well, we need this, this, or this. And do you know that these are things that we're working on and what we're trying to do? And so I feel like there might be a little bit of a disconnect until it's something that makes people mad, but there's a disconnect between like what we're trying to do, but really our goals are aligned with what a lot of the people were telling the library that they would like to see in the library's service district. So, I mean, it was like crossing 160, or it was definitely lots of people have concerns about water, broadband, like all of these things that we are actively working on. The people who responded to this survey were very much interested in too. So I think we need to find a way of how we're communicating things, but I think the public needs to start being willing to maybe there's a tax for this, or how are we generating revenue to do these things? And it's not, okay, Jeremy, you can't have X, Y, or Z, which we need to continue with the services we have. Or it's not, no, sorry, we can't get a new, a vehicle for the marshal's office. Or no, we can't increase salaries. Like everything we're doing, I feel, has great impact on retention of staff, on making our town better. I just think there's a lot that we're doing, and yes, we need to find funding, and I think those are some of the conversations we will be having to how are we making this happen, and I think those are going to be some hard discussions that the public needs to know what's going on. And when there's a cost increase, like no one will vote on increasing costs for anything, it seems, but things are getting more expensive. And I mean, do you want to be able to flush your toilet? Do you want to have clean and safe drinking water? Like, these are things that we provide. Roads that, except for the pothole that's over on Mars and Buck Highway, I don't know what happened to that stretch. But these are things that, I mean, they have a cost associated with them. And I mean, if people want more parks and more outdoor activities and more stuff. And it's like, well, I would love that too. But what are we going to fund? Like being able to drive on safe roads or be able to provide recreation? Like we're trying to do it all. And so, yeah, finding out how to fund that. I think that will be our priority. And I'm taking notes for the next budget meeting because next year, I don't want to hear about all these increases without a solution.
So I just want to make sure that you're aware that there was not the dots were not necessarily for a tax, but they were dots for a fee. And so there is, you do have that ability to charge a fee, just like you do for water, sewer, and garbage. And it's usually based on a permittable area. Residences are usually a flat type of fee, but your commercial businesses are probably also extenuating. I thought what was really interesting is that there's areas about, the mini mert there's a lot of water drained off that. But as we were listening in that public hearing, there's a lot of people out of Mountain View Drive that want the water to keep going south. So guess where that goes? So, I thought it was a very interesting conversation about every stormwater affects somebody else. So.
Very true.
Brian Blanchard, 627 Louisiana Drive. So I agree, it is a tricky one, and we know that. Those of us that are kind of overseeing what you're doing, what you're trying to do. But again, the thing is, when you pull from one account to pay for something else, as the Parks and Rec director said, what's the scenario there? What happens when you pull out of the road fund and we don't pay for a couple years? What's that dynamic? 4-to-1. So we're going to come back to you in a couple years and go, now we need to redo these roads or resurface these roads, and it's 4 times as much as it was this year. So you got to dig in and you got to figure out how to do this. That's why you're up there, and you can do it.
Do any of the department directors have anything to add or last comments? I mean, you think about just in our building department, the fee, I mean, for years and years and years, we were not even charging enough to cover staff time for these projects. It's like that we are making adjustments. We are playing catch up. You're right. We're absolutely playing catch up. And I think we're working on getting there. We're very well aware of what the picture looks like. It is scary. I mean, this budget season hasn't been a lot of fun to look at and crunch these numbers. But yeah. Anybody else? All right, I will go ahead and close our public hearings, and I will open up our regular scheduled meeting, November 1st, 2022. It is now 7:19. Roll call.
Trustee Ah. Trustee Dowson.
Here?
Trustee Hart.
Here.
Trustee Luke. Trustee Moreland.
Here.
Trustee Zazzaro.
Here.
Mayor Tarkington.
Here.
5 present.
All right, would everybody please stand for the pledge? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, does the board have any conflicts of interest to announce at this time?
Yes, I'm going to need to recuse myself for 6A.
Okay. At this time, I will open it up for general public input. If anybody from the audience would like to address the board, please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes. All right, seeing none. We will move on. Did everybody get a chance to look at the agenda?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Dowson.
Yes.
Trustee Hart.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland,
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, did everybody get a chance to go over the minutes from October 18th, 2022?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from October 18th, 2022 as presented.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Hart.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, Katie, would you like to highlight your report?
So our website is live. We still have some work to do there's a couple items regarding, you could actually sign up to get Board of Trustees agendas or the Planning Commission agendas. But we're working on that. We still have a ways to go. The plastic bag ban, I'm taking a webinar tomorrow regarding the plastic bag ban and basically the municipal responsibility. You probably wonder, well, why do we have all these bags out here? There's a concern about PFAS, and I'm not going to spell say the scientific name, but as we are a water purveyor, we're concerned about being able to treat PFAS out of the water, and there's no treatment without basically a contained, 1 cup at a time type of treatment at this time. So there is a reason that we should support plastic bans. It also includes some of the styrofoam containers that you have takeout food with as well. So Kathy, Rachel, and Jill, they attended the Cassell training last week, and I tell you what, it's very humbling to have somebody on the phone ask for somebody else to help them in the office. So we certainly appreciate that they got some training, but we're certainly happy that they're back.
I know you're probably going to know more about this plastic bag ban, but I'm just very curious. You can catch me up when you take your, but it's passed on to the consumer through the business, correct? And then it's not collected through the county?
No, it's
not like
collected by
sales
the
tax?
business, and then they refund the town
Town.
60% of those collected fees. So even paper bags, they'll start to collect that 10 cents. And of course, there's a whole act on it. But anyway, we're going to get a little more information
Okay.
on our responsibility.
I'll catch up with you on that one. Anything else?
I have nothing else, thank you.
All right, does the board have any questions?
No.
We'll move on to our Parks and Rec Director report.
We do have an open rec coordinator position. I hope to advertise for that tomorrow, get the word out, and start collecting resumes and applications and start the process on that. Currently, our 5th and 6th grade basketball program is running, and that'll go through November 19th. We get a little bit of a break through the holidays, and then as soon as the new year hits, we'll be doing kindergarten through 4th grade basketball and adult indoor soccer. As far as parks go, the town is partnering with Bear Smart Durango this weekend to do a pumpkin and leaf drop-off at Eagle Park. So that'll be November 4th, 5th, and 6th. And there are specific hours. They're listed on the website. Mark and Travis have been working on the irrigation project over on the south ball field. You'll kind of see we have stuff torn up a little bit over there by that right field fence and Joe Stevenson. And but I think they've got everything done, and it's nice to get it done this side of the year. So hopefully in the spring we've got better sprinkler coverage on our ball field. The senior center attendance continues to rise. Carrie started setting up more tables just every day, so that's a really good development for the senior center. The senior center craft fair will take place this Saturday from 9 to 2 at the senior center. And we are in the process of bringing on a substitute for Carrie. So when she has planned time off, the lady that's going to be subbing for Carrie is Tukso Cook, and she begins training on November 15th, and she'll cover Carrie over her holiday break. The last item I had was kind of more of a question. It's a bit of a conflict of interest question. We are interested in purchasing a walk-behind floor scrubber for the old middle school gym floor. Right now, we use towels and a heavy bar thing that we drag behind us. It's not super efficient, and we have a bunch of towels that we have to clean up afterwards. And so we found out about this floor scrubber. It's from KP Pawn. It's $400. Most floor scrubbers, brand new, retail for at least $2,000 or more. Used ones I found online were $1,000 plus. The issue is that KP Pawn is owned by Travis Kirkpatrick, which is Carrie's husband, Carrie Kirkpatrick, our senior center coordinator. So in the name of transparency, we were just making the board aware and asking permission if we can purchase the floor scrubber for $400 from KP Pawn.
Well, it sounds like this is going to save staff time in towel cleaning.
It is, and we've already actually been using it. He was nice enough to drop it off for us and said, try it out, see if you like it, see if it works. And so we've used it a couple times. It works great. I mean, I think it's a pretty low commitment for it. The school has one over there, but it needs to be disposed of.
Oh, okay, that's what I was gonna ask, is
Yeah.
why doesn't the school have any responsibility for keeping the gym floor clean?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think.
Especially because there's other programs in there, it's not just us.
Yeah, I mean, Wolverine Academy uses it during the week.
And the treehouse.
Yeah, they'll use it more. But yeah, even like the Treehouse, Pine River Shares, they've kind of been going through us to use the gym. So it's mainly us. The school is using it, I think, less than they ever have. And so, it's not high priority on their maintenance schedule. So, yeah, just trying to be proactive, take it upon ourselves to make sure that the gym's in good shape. And this helps us with that. It wasn't something we were necessarily looking for. It was like, oh, Carrie was like, we've got a floor scrubber. Would you guys be interested? So that's how it came up. But yeah, we want to be transparent.
We just want to make sure you're not opposed to that, and we're also doing this in public hearing or public meeting, so that if anybody questions why one of our employees' businesses is selling us a machine, that we've provided that information to you. And if you're opposed, then we'll have to go back to the 15th and have a vote on it, so.
No, I think it's just one of those small town things. It's just, if it's a good deal, it's a good deal. But I appreciate the transparency on that. And I'm not going to dwell on the school district's decision on the rodeo grounds, but I mean, maybe it could be, there's a little positive on that, just to move in a different direction and have some, Yeah, 1 second, we'll just,
Yeah, and a question about that too.
yeah.
Did we just ask them if they were willing to transfer the land to us, like free of charge, sell the land? Like, do they have plans for this land? It's such a small parcel. I can't
Right.
believe they're not willing to let it go.
I mean,
It
I was
bothers
initially
me.
very peeved on that, and I just kept thinking it would be so much better for them, parking-wise, everything, to move it away from there. But, I mean, I guess we have our answer, and we have to move forward with a different concept.
I don't know exactly like what their plans are for the land. We didn't really get a clear answer. I don't know if they have a clear answer right now. It was just more, my impression was it's an asset that they don't want to get rid of right now. And yeah, that's really all we got from them.
And I don't want to change the subject, but we kind of did a little bit of secret cheering, because we have all of the master plan for the park has been in hold
Right.
because of that piece of land. So getting a response from the school board was at least, now we know we can do something different and go forward.
And
with-
that's what I was saying. Like,
Yeah.
I think there is a little bit of a positive, outlook to be had from this. But, my initial, I was a little bit wondering why that, how that conversation went and wondering why that happened. So-
Especially because, I mean, when the whole plan was put in place, the school district was not left out of that conversation whatsoever. So it's due to, a change of administration and a change of board that it's immediately a no now, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, when we sat in that meeting with the school district, none of us had been there when this plan had been developed.
And they
or-
were all, it was all new to them.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I thought was interesting, he didn't say that they wouldn't transfer it to the town, they just said they don't want the rodeo arena to relocate, which we thought, well, okay, that's not even in their purview.
Right, because the rodeo arena had said, yes, we're willing to move.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it really comes down to the rodeo arena did move and they were no longer using it. That deed transfers back to the school district. So that's what we were asking for them. When they received that deed, would they, you know, basically use it, could we use it for Joe Stevenson Park? And they didn't even. So anyway, in some ways, we can actually move forward because that has delayed any
Yeah.
capital improvement. We can't even do a playground because now we have to have a major master plan that incorporates a new playground.
Okay.
Yeah.
Phyllis, did you have a question? I'll have you step up to the.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Were we a yes on his?
Yeah, it'll come back to the board.
Last couple of times, so
You
I'm
know,
back.
I was worried about that. I was.
Phyllis Ludwig, 9205 County Road 521. If the town would allow it, the Ludwig Ranch would like to purchase the scrubber for the gym floor. We'd be more than happy to. So I'll let it be
Okay.
your decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phyllis.
There, see,
Right? Finding ways.
How about stormwater?
More ditches for us.
We get some more people to see this.
Just a couple more zeros and we'll be good.
Okay, any other questions for Parks and Rec? We'll tie that whole section up. We'll move on to our disbursements, financial and budget agenda action. Do we have any public input on 3A through H? If not, we'll move on to our financials and disbursements. And Kathy, would you like to provide a brief overview for us?
Oh, sure. So at the end of September, 3/4 of the year had finally lapsed. You'll notice in all the funds that have sales tax associated with them, the sales tax is reported at roughly 65%. And this is because receipt of those funds is 2 months in arrears. So those funds are accounted for through July. That's why they're a little low. In the general fund, the HIDA grant, of course, is low. There was very little of it utilized this year. That was due to the retirement of Chris Choate at the beginning of the year. We will see a change in this line item once Sergeant Cashwell begins her duties on the task force, which I guess started today, so we'll start seeing that. The overtime line item in the marshal's office is high, and that will continue to be that way until staff is, until staff is hired. We do currently have a cadet in the academy and hope to have her graduate in December. The personnel relations for the marshal's office is also high, and this is due to the investigation that had taken place. We do have some unexpended funds in the general capital improvement. The playground at Joe Stevenson Park and the park master plan update will not be done this year. In the capital improvements in the sewer fund, the diffusers have been moved to 2023. The unexpended $400,000 in the capital improvement fund is for broadband, and that has not been done. In the water fund, we have not received the bill for Los Pinos' attorney fees regarding the water rights adjudication. And in reference to the debt service in the water fund, when the 2022 budget was adopted, we did not have an amortization schedule for the loan. We now know that $71,000 will be the annual payment, not the $246,000 that was budgeted.
That's because we didn't use it all, right?
Correct. Yes. In the street fund capital improvements, there are a couple of projects that won't be done in 2022, including the Bayfield Center Trail project that was in the budget for $1 million. And of course, fuel and IT expenses are high across all the funds.
Well, most importantly, I did notice that we're like 99% spent for all of our meeting. So does that mean no more pizza parties?
Unless Phyllis is gonna.
I was a little disappointed to see that. But hopefully that means no more early meetings.
Well, it just meant that people went to things this year. It was kind of nice.
And we're almost done with the year, so we're good.
I'm just saying, I read this. I noticed.
All right, do we have any questions on the September financial statements?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve September financial statements as presented.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Dowson?
Yes.
Trustee Harts?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
Trustee Zazzaro?
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
All in favor?
Everybody get a chance to go over the October 2022 disbursements? Kathy, do you have anything to add to that?
I do not.
I would entertain a motion to accept the October 2022 disbursements.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the October 2022 disbursements as presented by the Finance Director.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Dallison?
Yes.
Trustee Harts?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
Trustee Zazzaro?
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
All in favor?
All right, going on to the 2022 audit.
So I'm asking the board to consider Hinton and Burdick for at least the 2022 audit. It would be great to have them for the 2022 audit and the 2023 audit. And the reason is I think that we've had a lot of finance director changeover. We have 4 in 3 years. And I think it's time to do some training. If we could guarantee at least 2022 audit with Hinton and Burdick, they could work with us for some adjustments and our audit for 2022 at the end of the year and not be trying to do this in April. 2023 would be great as well because we could actually go through the budget with them and actually get some training for our financial staff. That would be Finance Director Kathy Cathcart and then the Deputy Finance Rachel Davenport as well. I think I think we're in good financial shape, but I think some of our adjustments and audits and having that good relationship with an auditor, I think that would help us with our audit. And there will not be, I've asked Kathy to knock those adjustments down to at least 25 instead of 40. In some of the experience I've had, typically the finance director had 2 or 3. So you can see that the auditor spends a lot of extra time dealing with those adjustments when we should be doing that in-house.
I mean, I agree for ease of kind of the transition and training purposes. I'm on board for another year with Hinton Burdick, but I do want to go out for an RFQ after that. I think if it helps out staff and kind of eases that transition, I would lean that direction, but I think it would be time to shop them after that.
I concur. I mean, having gone through as many people, many finance directors as we have, it's good to have a stable auditor at this time, but we definitely want to go look elsewhere after this one.
So if everyone's on board for,
Do you need a motion?
yes, through the 2023 audit, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to retain Hinton and Burdick for the 2022 and 2023 audit.
For both audits?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison?
Yes.
Trustee Harts?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
Trustee Zazzaro?
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
All in favor?
All right, moving on to our 2022 budget supplements, 513, 529, 540, and 542. if the board has any follow-up questions or concerns, we should ask those now.
Madam Mayor, with no further public input during the public hearing, motion to approve 2022 budget supplements per resolution 513, 529, 540, and 542.
I'll second.
Who was it?
That was me.
We'll give it to Brenna. We have a motion and a second. Any last discussion, comments? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison?
Yes.
Trustee Hart?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro?
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
All in favor?
All right, resolution 543, adoption of the 2023 budget. Is everybody ready for that? Or have any last concerns or questions?
I think I still have the same concern I had the last time with the one budget where we were a million. I can't remember which division it was. Yeah. I'm just really concerned about that.
Well, I think wasn't the plan to do a little research on what needs to be addressed, and so we're budgeting to have something available. I'm not sure that we're gonna use it all, because I wanna hear a little bit more, because in that, the chart, it could be fees here, or grants here, or, so I don't know that we've exhausted all other options, but that sounded like the worst-case scenario.
I don't really have any, the two contingencies are the two FTEs and then the stormwater. We don't feel like that those should be just approved within this budget, but of course, we have this budget to approve, that it's my job to come back to you with how we're going to fund this shortfall for stormwater. And of course, we're going to come back to you with asking you for action. Whether that's a fee, whether you go to a ballot initiative, of course, that's your choice. Or the other grants that are available, we still have to match that, and there's still going to be long-term maintenance beyond just the capital improvements that you see in this budget. The sewer fund was intended to spend that down. You received that money in the last 2 years, and the intent was to spend that down for the purposes of what the eligible funds for the diffusers and nutrient removal.
I have concerns about the stormwater budget item as well, because we don't know anything yet. So until we have the initial report of really what we're dealing with, we can't even begin to address that. And we do have the options to move that money back and forth to the street fund where we're pulling it.
It is in the streets fund. It remains
So-
in the street fund. It was, we didn't know where to put it because it's not necessarily an operation that we've had in the past. It's unfortunate it's in the street fund, but it would have to go somewhere.
And I think we'll have plenty of conversation as it comes our way to feel a little more comfortable, kind of wrap, our brains around it
Right.
once we have more information.
Right.
I think I would personally feel more comfortable approving the budget and that piece of it if there was something in the resolution that talks about the fact that this is going to be brought back to us on the sewer fund to discuss further.
So it's appropriations, because that's the only way that you would give us the authority to spend money. In that motion I provided, basically, directing the town manager to return the following items for approval with adequate funding mechanism recommendations, such as parks, seasonal facility grounds, employee advertisement, and stormwater capital improvements, excluding the town engineer stormwater feasibility study. Because without that, you're still don't know what
So that's
we're
coming up
funding.
next.
I'm just looking at 544.
Right, no, you're-
Okay, yeah, that's why I was.
That's okay.
Yeah, the budget
Yeah,
is one
I see.
approval. We can't spend a dime until you actually approve the appropriation of those funds.
So I would entertain a motion from the board on Resolution 543.
Madam Mayor, with no further input during the public hearing, motion to approve the 2023 budget per Resolution 543.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison,
Yes?
trustee Harts,
Yes.
trustee Moreland,
Yes.
trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
Okay, Resolution 544, appropriating sums of money to the various funds. This is kind of where we get a better explanation on the funds. Does the board have any questions or any other clarification they need?
No. Madam Mayor, I'd like to make approval with no further, a recommendation with no further public input during the public hearing motion to approve the appropriation of amounts in each fund beginning January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023 per Resolution 544. In addition, directing the town manager to return the following items for approval with adequate funding mechanism recommendations such as new park seasonal facility and grounds employee advertisement, and stormwater capital improvements excluding the town engineer stormwater feasibility study.
Second.
That was a mouthful.
That's a mouthful. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison,
Yes.
trustee Harts,
Yes.
trustee Moreland,
Yes.
trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, Resolution 545, to set the mill levy. Do we do that every year?
You're
Okay.
required to do it every year.
Missed that one.
Madam Mayor, the majority of the registered voters in the town of Bayfield in the 2003 general election voted in favor of establishing a 5.950 mill levy. With no further public input during the public hearing, motion to approve the setting the mill levy per Resolution 545.
I'll second that.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Dallison,
Yes.
trustee Harts,
Yes.
trustee Moreland,
Yes.
trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, Resolution 546, constrained fund balances. Questions, comments?
Madam Mayor, with no further public input during the public hearing and the town manager's alert that the stormwater capital improvements in the street fund are underfunded, motion to approve Resolution 546 documenting constrained fund balances in each fund.
I second that.
All right, any further discussion from the board? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison,
Yes.
trustee Harts,
Yes.
trustee Moreland,
Yes.
trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, Resolution 547, the
So
20.
547, I'm just asking you to add the recreation coordinator to wage scale number 6. And this just would be an add in that row.
So I'd encourage a motion here in adding that recreation coordinator position.
On top of the,
Mm-hmm.
we're on Resolution 547?
Yep, wage scale. Do you have questions or comments on that?
So we're adding,
Um,
oh, the
yeah.
addition of the,
It would just be right under senior center, a facility monitor would be the recreation coordinator. It'd just be in there, the 6. So the per hour, the low is $17.81. The midway is $22.18. The high would be $24.64.
Madam Mayor, with no further public input during the public hearing and the goal to provide transparency in compensation regarding recruitment and retaining good employees, I would like to make a motion to approve Resolution 547, adding a recreational coordinator to that document as stated by
Number 6.
town manager. Number 6.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison,
Yes.
trustee Harts,
Yes.
trustee Moreland,
Yes.
trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington,
Yes.
all in favor.
All right, at this time, I will close the regular meeting and open up the public hearing regarding our land use Marlin Village PUD amendment. Nicole, you're up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a request from Mark and Linda Head, and they're requesting to amend their planning and development, which they did get approved back in May of 2017 from the Board of Trustees. They're requesting 3 amendments. One is for to pay the parkland dedication and park facility fees. Back in May of 2017, they offered to dedicate .06 acres of open space to the town of Bayfield in exchange for paying the parkland dedication fee and the park facility fees. And they have since requested to go ahead and pay those fees rather than dedicate that open space to the town of Bayfield. So that's the first request. The second is they want to amend their fence variance. Back in April of '22, the planning commission heard, and on April 19th, the board of trustees approved a fence variance to allow them to construct a 6-foot fence within a setback area, which usually would allow 42-inch fences. Because they're not in the neighborhood, they don't have adjacent neighbors, their setback is quite far behind Bayfield Parkway. Town staff did support that variance. And what they're asking to do is go to a maximum of 8 feet in certain areas, so they can do a decorative fence. And I did include a picture of what that would look like in your packet. Just the mountains every once in a while that have a decorative element that will go up to 8 feet. Otherwise, they won't be changing the location of the fence, just the height. And then the third item is actually, they want an amendment to the building permit fees that we just approved back in August 16th. For tiny homes, we didn't have a tiny home permit before that process, and since we knew we were having a tiny home village come in, we adopted a tiny home permit fee of $250, and they would actually like to request to amend that to $50. And so staff, in terms of their parkland dedication and park facilities fee, that is allowed per code to pay the fee, so, or dedicate the land, so staff really doesn't have a concern with them wanting to pay that fee versus dedicate the land. The fee will come out to $50,840, which will be paid to the town of Bayfield. So we don't have an issue with that. And then also their fence variance, because it's just for decorative elements, and again, their fence is set back quite a ways from Bayfield Parkway, and they're not in residential neighborhood where they have adjacent neighbors that would be impacted by the fence. And as long as they meet our visibility triangles out of their driveways and along Bayfield Parkway and Canberra 509, town staff doesn't have any concerns with them wanting to increase the fence height in certain areas. We do have a concern, though, with their request to reduce the tiny home permit fee to $50. Even though tiny homes, we do treat them differently, even different than mobile homes. And I will say, starting in July of 2023, the state is going to be taking over the tiny home permits. So this is really only for a period of time. The town will be doing these, and then we'll be working with the state Division of Local Affairs to be taking over all tiny home review permits. But for now, it requires usually my time and our building inspector's time to look at. We require a third-party inspector because these are habitable spaces. They do need to say that they're livable and they meet life safety requirements. And usually they're built off-site, so our building inspector can't really tell the materials without making them remove materials to see how they're structurally constructed, including the roof. And so we require a third-party inspector to verify that. So we do need to review that third-party inspection report, as well as do a site visit to make sure they're on the appropriate site. And so $250 is really going to probably barely pay for my time and his time to go out there and do the inspection to make sure it's on the site properly and look at that third-party report. So again, we're requesting that not to be reduced from questions that you have, staff and the applicants are present if you have any questions again as well.
I have a question, Nicole. So I'm looking at the map, the plat, whatever it is called. What was the open space park, where was that supposed to be? That now, what's it changing to?
So it'd be a little closer, right adjacent to where the town owns the open space where the old barn's located,
Mhm.
going towards the river.
Mhm.
And it's actually down below, so Marlin Village is actually gonna be located,
Mhm.
above on the riverbank, and this will be
Mhm.
down in the floodplain area.
Mhm.
So that was we would have combined it with the open space that we've already
Mhm.
accumulated down by the
Mhm.
river. It's the lower portion.
Mhm.
It's not buildable.
Mhm.
We would never be able to develop.
Mhm. Well, what are we planning to do with it?
Combine open space along the river, so
Mhm.
we could put in trails,
Mhm.
passive activities along the river.
Because I feel like when we go over these, that's a lot of the discussion that we have, is that open space and trails and those types of things, which is why we agree to move forward with some of these things, so,
Their open
yeah.
space is not adjacent
Mhm.
to the river, we
Mhm.
already own the piece
Mhm.
of basin, so it would have just been combining with what
Mhm.
we already own.
Mhm.
But our open space is what has the river access.
Mhm.
So it's
I think
kind
if
of a-
this had river access, we probably
Mhm.
would ask for to
Mhm.
keep that dedication,
Mhm.
but in this case, it doesn't have
Okay.
river access.
Are these plat maps going to have written on them that it's dedicated to the town, or will they be
Well,
updated,
it's
so?
not gonna be.
Okay.
They wanna keep it.
They're gonna
No, no,
keep-
no, 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 I'm just saying, if it was already on there, will it be updated so that when someone looks at this 10 years from now and no one remembers doing this?
They would have been doing a survey.
Okay.
And then that would have been dedicated to the town and.
Okay.
ownership. So they would essentially be subdividing it off and
Okay.
creating separate lots of the town. But
Okay.
they don't want to follow through with that.
Okay.
Am I to understand that the $250 was times 15 units? Or is it just 250?
Unit.
Yeah.
So then if a new unit comes in, we still have to go through that same process of, we go out there and check to make sure the unit's at the right location, as well as review the third-party inspection report. And so anytime a new unit moves on, we have to do that process until July, when the state was to take over that process.
And I think we just had this discussion about covering, staff time, and
Yes.
so, I mean,
Yeah, $50 wouldn't even kind of
mm.
cover the time, so.
Would not.
The applicant is here if you would like to address the board or have anything you would like to say, you can step up.
My name is Linda Head, 374 County Road 520, Bayfield, Colorado. As far as, we'll start with the first question, and as far as the wetlands, we wanted to kind of keep that and maybe at one point create kind of a stairway down. We've been trying to create private areas for people, and it's a small parcel. Excuse me. So maybe eventually come down the side by the parkway with a staircase and maybe create a little bit 10 by 10, 10 by 12 pad where people with a bench, where people could go down there and sit also. So we would rather go ahead and pay and keep our land. Well, we wouldn't want to pay, so could we keep the money too?
Great.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. Hey, I'm building too, I understand.
So yes, no.
Okay.
So we'd go ahead and pay that and keep that. And then as far as the fencing, it's just trying to keep it a little more aesthetic with some mountain scenes and all that we would put in there, and those would be the high sections. And the $50 fee, I was just shooting low. That's pretty common sense. But at the same time, I was just thinking of our residents too. I mean, these aren't people that are, it's not low-income, poor people that everybody's afraid that would move in there and it would be a trashy mess. But these are retired people also, and they're trying to be on a budget. And I had called Durango, and I said, so what do you do with your inspections? And the inspector said, when they're on tiny homes on wheels, they're just like an RV. And so they've already got the stamp, and we don't accept anybody that's not NOAA or RVIA approved, which they have to go through all of the building codes. So it's already set once that stamp gets on that house. And, excuse me, once that gets on there, then the NOAA or RVIA approved, then it is up to specs. So he said, basically, all they do is go out there and see that it's on wheels, and it's called a block set permit, and they charge $150 for it. So they do, there's nothing for them to do as far as, it's kind of new to me with Nicole saying they take off the siding and all that. That, I would think, would have,
That's why we have a third-party inspector.
That's what they're trying to avoid.
Otherwise, you have to see what it's built out of.
okay,
So that's what the third-party inspection, just sticker covers.
yeah. So what would you guys, so if you could clarify that for me.
The biggest difference to compare to Durango is Durango has their own building inspectors. We
Okay.
actually contract out
Okay.
building inspectors, so we do pay more for our building inspector. And so again, we're just trying to recoup the cost that it takes for us to do our part of it, as well as we issue a permit at the end, so they'll actually get a permit that says that they're able to stay at that location. And I'm not sure, I can't remember if Durango issues a permit.
They do. He said, yeah, they do, and that's what he
So
gives
it
them.
takes some time as well as that,
Yeah,
and that's what we're just trying to recoup.
yeah. And I understand that too. I just liked $50 for them better. Okay, any questions? Those are just my comments.
Thank you.
No, thanks.
Done.
And we would invite any members of the public if anybody has something to say, questions, concerns, comments?
Brian Blanchard, 627 Louisiana Drive. So I've always been in support of Marlin Village. I think it's a cool little project, and I still support Marlin Village. However, I don't think that we should lower the fee for the inspections. We've kind of been through this, and again, it sets a precedent. We've been doing that for a long time, and it hasn't helped us. Hopefully, that won't deter their project, the $250 for the inspections, which is actually a good thing for them, too. As far as the property on the hillside, I've walked it a few times now in the last month or so. The only concern I have with that is that what they would do with it eventually. It's not really buildable, it's too steep, and then it's also natural wetlands down below. But it's kind of on a hillside that's very apparent as you come along the parkway. So maybe a stipulation of what they could or could not do there would be a good thing as well. Just my thoughts, but I am still totally in favor of the project. I think it's a good little thing for Bayfield, and I wish them the best. Thanks.
Any other questions, comments? Anything else? Yep.
What do we do with the money that we collect for these fees? I mean, $15,840 is
So it's two different fees.
not bad.
The park, so there's a parkland dedication fee, and that comes out to $11,640. And that is because they did not dedicate a park to the town. They gave that to us, we put it in a fund, and if we ever go in and purchase a property for parkland, then we could use that funding
Okay.
for that. And then the second fee is the park facility fee, which is $4,200. And that's for all 15 units. And that's only one-time fee as well. And what we do with that is maintain our existing facilities. So any new building permit, in this case, they're multifamily, so they only pay $280, and they have a single family rate. Any new residential that comes in pays that fee to maintain our current parks.
Okay.
So if you'll notice on the resolution that you just passed, 546, we constrain those funds And there is a ordinance basically that identifies exactly how they're supposed to be spent.
Brian Blanchard, 627 Louisiana Drive. So after looking at the proposal for not dedicating the property to the town and then paying in lieu of, which is fine, I don't have a problem with that. My comment is that I'm a believer in these impact fees going forward so that we're not always playing catch up. And this is a good example of that, of a fee that is imposed that's been in place for a long time and never updated, in my understanding. And that is, if you look at the size of the parcel that they're retaining, that the town could have had, is 0.6 acres for $16,000. That's a good deal. Show me where I can buy 6/10 of an acre in town for $16,000. So it's an example of fees that need to be updated.
Agreed.
Still wish them well. I think it's a good thing. It's an example, and I don't mean to pick on their project, but it's in our face right now of what's happening. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? All right, I will go ahead and close the public hearing, and we'll move on to our regular scheduled agenda. We'll move on to our land use action agenda, 5A, our Marlin Village PUD amendment. And we can open it up for public comment as well at this time, but if everybody said their piece, we can move on. All right, so thoughts, questions, comments, concerns from the board? I personally, I'm fine with the in lieu fee, I'm fine with the fencing, but I am not going to sway on the permitting.
I would agree.
We just had this conversation tonight about playing catch up.
Yep, I would agree. I mean, how many millions?
We have to
are
pay,
we?
yeah, we have to pay for staff
How many
time.
millions? How many millions? Not that could cover the millions, but,
It's a-
not only
it's a
that,
start.
but if
It's
we do it
setting-
for one, we have to do it for them all. So might as well change the fees to that if that's the case. Because we can't like adjust fees for, this person and then not do it for another person. So it sets a precedence that I'm just not willing to really bend on that one. But I agree, the fence and the in lieu of, that's not an issue to me. Especially if it's not buildable.
Yeah.
They just want to put a little space for people to sit and look at nature.
And Nicole,
That's what we would use it for too, so a little
Can-
space for people to look at nature, so.
and you said, you said summer of '23, the state is now going to take over all of.
Yeah.
Tiny home permits.
So that takes it completely out of our hands at all for the town? Okay.
Yep.
Is that going to be hard?
We may still have to look at the location, just because we're approving the plan, but they will confirm that it's got third-party inspection. They'll create their own standards for how they're going to do that review.
And then our fee goes bye-bye.
And I asked to be on their review committee, because I'd like to see what the standards are, so.
Especially because we're gonna see it more in our area than up in Denver where they're making all the rules.
So if there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion either way from the board.
Is it alternative B? Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Marlin Village PUD amendment with staff's proposed change with the following findings and conditions. Findings A and B, conditions A and B. Do I need to list it out?
Oh, I think,
Second.
all right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison?
Yes.
Trustee Harts?
Yes.
Trustee Moreland?
Yes.
Trustee Zazzaro?
Yes.
Mayor Tarkenton?
Yes.
All in favor?
So I just want to verify, you're basically approving the
Alternative action
alternative
B.
action B, and that includes the subdivision approval should be amended to include the following changes to the parkland dedication and park facility fees, and the tiny home permit fee shall remain $250 for each permit issued.
Correct.
Just want to make sure that that's,
Yep.
All right. All right, moving on to our action agenda. Do we have any public input pertaining to items 6A through C on the agenda?
I'm gonna recuse myself.
From 6A? All right. Sick bank payout.
So I thought that this would be good to have this conversation and action by the board prior to amending the employee handbook. Trustee Zazzaro did give me the San Juan Basin Public Health's conversion from vacation sick to PTO, which is paid time off. That includes the family provision and I also want to remind you that the town has already opted out of the family provision via Resolution 525, and I already filed that with the state. So we are opted out for 8 years. And we also, the town is less than 50 employees. The town of Bayfield is exempt from FSLA. And so we have basically identified the 50% of the sick time with the employees that would be eligible for that at this time. From the general fund, it would be about $32,729. From the sewer fund, $8,837. From the street fund, $1,024. From the water fund, $17,752. With a total about $60,344. And if you decide to motion and approve in favor of this, basically it just says I'm going to put it in the employee handbook. Your final vote on the employee handbook will determine whether or not it's going to be paid out, because there's some other conditions that come with it. If you vote against it, we'll just remove it entirely. And you do have a letter, an email from an employee regarding this topic, I believe. So if you
Katie, is this payout included in funding or budgeting that's already in 2022?
it would be in 2022, and if you adopted the employee handbook, it'd be December of 2022 and January of 2023. So it could be spread out over 2 years, but you can't just leave this option open forever. It would have to be either do it in a couple months or it's at a sick bank and you can only use it for eligible reasons.
I was asking because we just adopted our budget, and I'm like, is this $60,000 in there somewhere, or no?
Well, amazingly enough, we've auctioned a lot of items off, and I'll let Jeremy tell you basically what we made in auctioning items off.
Well, I kind of feel like we were thinking that some of the things that we might have been selling would have been offsetting some of the things we were approving in the 2023 budget. No? This is totally separate?
It's totally separate.
Oh, you had like a yard sale?
Yep. Auction.
Yeah, we sold the whole yard. So we did actually liquidate quite a bit of old equipment. A lot of the military surplus equipment was auctioned through the public surplus site. So I don't remember the exact amount. $61,000 in equipment that we've liquidated in the last couple months. And that includes Marshall's vehicles, Army surplus equipment, and then some antiquated and beyond useful lifespan vehicles from Public Works, which is the water department, the sewer department as well.
And, you know, the department heads are here, so you can certainly ask them questions of what the feeling and sentiment is of their crew on this topic. I mean, I feel like between insurance and this discussion, it's been
Katie, my
a
other
little rough.
question is this a common practice? Paying out 50% of sick time? Because I don't know if I've ever worked for an employer that has paid out sick time.
Board. And because we're a smaller organization, you know, it's I've seen PTO basically the sick time basically converted 100% over to vacation time. And when you think about some of these hours out there, that's pretty big. So in other words, if I take 720 hours, we'll just take Kathy Cathcart, take 720 hours, convert it to vacation time, and all of a sudden she decides I'm going to retire, then we pay out the full 720 hours of vacation time because it's required. The other thing that I've done in other organizations is we left it in a sick bank. However, it becomes, we're always tripping over the sick bank because then you have PTO and you have a sick bank and then you have basically some other time off. I think we had some floating holidays off. But then you're always tripping over these banks of time. And so in one community, I basically begged the last guy to please get a payout because the goal was to keep it a bank until they decided to have it paid out at 50%. But unfortunately, it was that one person that created a payroll nightmare time after time.
So our plan is to have PTO, correct? So this isn't going to spill into next year and then next year because we'll be in PTO. So this is, what you have here is it.
It's ending it.
The one thing that we cannot do is if they decide not to get a payout, we can't take their sick time away because they were guaranteed or promised that at some point in a previous personnel handbook.
I mean, I'm a fan of moving over to the PTO. It just simplifies things, and I think that's what I'm hearing in meetings. I don't know. That's yes.
PTO, good.
Yes.
Well, I think it's good for those managing staff too. I don't understand how Kathy can have 720 hours of sick time.
Because she never took a day off.
Well, no, I get that. No, I understand that. However, I don't understand why there was never a cap that was lower.
Right.
Because at some point, you use it or lose it, or it doesn't keep accruing. So this is just another practice that I think the town had in place that makes absolutely no sense to me. But maybe this is a common practice, but I did do HR for
There's some
a
interesting
small
things
stint,
going on.
and I don't
All I
understand
can
it.
say.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
Yeah, because I think not having this hanging out there would actually help managers and supervisors manage their staff. So to me, this going away is great. If you're saying we have the funding to do it, and this is what everyone wants,
Everybody but
you've got,
one person.
oh,
So keep in mind, the other thing is that, let's just say that an employee's at $20 an hour, and they've accrued this time at $20 an hour. And if they keep this bank for 8, 9, 10 years, and get promoted, it could be $40 liability that we're basically, they accrued it in, 2010, but by the time they get to 2015, it's, $40 an hour.
yeah, it's getting paid out at probably their current rate of pay.
Or they just get
so-
sick for,
Yeah.
8 weeks or 9 weeks or.
We don't, so I know, and I'm sorry, but FLSA versus FMLA, FMLA is the Family Medical Leave Act. We're not, are we exempt from that as
Yes.
well?
Yes.
So FLSA falls under, they're related? Because I thought one was like salaried versus hourly employees. Am I getting this, maybe I'm getting my acronyms messed. Okay, yeah, they're not the same.
Correct.
Okay. So that means an employee could take 720 hours saying they're sick. but do
18
and keep
weeks.
their job, and do they have to prove that they're out with a medical like, do they have to have a doctor's note I know when we have staff that are out for more than 3 days, they have to show proof of why they're out, like, and it's between HR, it's HIPAA compliant and those types of things. Do our staff have to do that?
They have to do that, and,
Okay.
and we don't want abuse of that type of sick time, but, we can, it's gotten a little more, I don't want to say politically sensitive about what you're asking about why you're sick. And yes, you can get doctors, for 18 weeks you're out doing, what? So I think that's where it gets sensitive. And we're just a small community of, we're hoping that Rachel will take some HR classes and understand what HR really is. So the thing is it really falls under, who's going to be checking the doctor's form and.
And it just so happens that the boys sold enough stuff that they could cover this expense. Just on the nose.
That wasn't the intent.
I know, I was like, is that for their staff? Because I heard you throw in a Marshall's vehicle, so that.
Yeah, I know, I was like, Brandon, you got anything
not
else?
even
We need
included
50
in
more
there.
bucks.
That's not even included, so that's a, I mean, I'm personally, I would vote, in favor of a sick bank payout and just kind of, we would have to change the employee handbook.
Well, you would see the edits in the employee handbook, and if you still disagree with the condition of getting it paid out, we could have that discussion as well. But this at least either puts it in or takes it out.
Kitty, do we do annual increases on the calendar year or on staff's,
So
like the COLA, that stuff that we do?
So COLA is budgeted for employees that have been here, and there's certain percentages for certain positions.
But those
Beginning
does
of
go in effect-
2023.
Okay, so we would want to make sure all of this happens prior to then, because now everyone gets paid out at
That's a
higher
very good
rate.
point.
Okay. No, I mean, sorry, I'm not trying to screw over anyone's sick leave payout. I still had never heard of this, so I think everyone's getting an added bonus already. But yeah, I'm in favor of getting this done and getting it done as soon as possible, prior to 2023.
Yeah, and I think if we vote against this, people are gonna start calling in sick left and right all over.
Oh, I 100% think
So-
that will happen, so I think at least, I think 50% is better than 0%.
So I would entertain a motion from the board. If there are no further questions. We are either in favor or against, and
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to vote in favor of a sick bank payout that will only be applicable if the revised employee handbook is adopted.
I second that.
all right, roll call, please.
We need to say at 50%.
I think it might be important.
Okay, 50
The motion includes.
the 50% payout.
Sorry.
Sure. To include a 50% payout to employees.
And then I'll reset, who seconded
Let me
it?
ask one more
second that.
question, because we're approving it at this rate of $60,344.13.
Well, it's an estimate of where
Est-
we're at today.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Kristen, I don't mean to keep messing up your motion.
So we have a motion, can I get a,
I second it.
all right. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Dallison?
Yes.
Trustee Harts?
Yes.
Trustee Zazzaro?
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington?
Yes,
All in favor?
we can get Brenna back in the room. All right, moving on to our 2023 meeting dates, times, and posting locations.
Can I have an add-on real quick?
Yes.
So December meetings, I'm starting to get some applications in that would be scheduled for the December 20th meeting, and I just want to make sure that that's not going to change.
Do we, how many people would we, are taking vacation during the Christmas week?
Nope. And it's the week before
I'll be here.
Christmas, I believe.
Yeah, it's that,
It's a Tuesday before
Yeah.
Christmas,
I'll be
yeah.
here.
We're just verifying.
okay.
Yeah, should be here.
I think we should be good.
So currently, right now, your current dates are the first and third Tuesday of the month. The ordinance does allow you to cancel them or add a special meeting. The time is basically, is not necessarily in the ordinance because it gives you a little freedom to start earlier or later. But 6:30 has been kind of the prescribed time because it seems to work with everybody. And I got the direction, only make sure it's no more than 2-hour meetings still. So we're getting close. And then the posting location is on the west door here, and we would adopt a resolution for that in January, your first meeting in January of 2023. So just want to make sure. We've had discussions. I think the school board was meeting on the same nights that we were meeting. The city of Durango meets the same first and third Tuesday. But this is a time just to have that discussion before we get into 2023 and
I personally don't have a conflict.
Yeah, I've kind of arranged my entire life around it, so.
Yep. Same.
okay. That's all I needed to know.
Okay. All right, let's 2023 Zoom meeting, citizen attendance participation. This is one I probably brought forward. I would like to get a temperature from the board and talk about Zoom. I personally, I'm over it. I think it's complicated for, I think Nicole's over there like a DJ trying to do all of the stuff she's got to do, try to get people in. They can't hear us. There's a delay. They get kicked off. I personally would like to go back to real life. And, everyone.
Our YouTube video would still stay in effect as well, so.
It would be recorded, people could watch it. I just think people got a little too comfortable sitting on there yelling at us.
I agree with
I think they should have to come down here and look at us. But I didn't know how the board felt. I mean, I understand that there are circumstances, but things come up or vacations are planned, but you're allowed to miss a meeting. I would rather you be sick
Clearly,
and.
there's only 5 of us here.
Yeah. So, I would.
Yeah, turn it off. That's my good.
Yep,
I'm fine
I
with
think
it.
Turn it off.
Done. I do Zoom all day long. I don't need to do it at night. And if I'm not around, I will not Zoom in. I'll just take the night off.
So if we had a consultant that was via Zoom.
That's
would-
different.
That's different.
Okay, that's different. I just want to make
Yeah.
sure that when we have, an engineer or even our own consultants, our auditor has done the Zoom presentation before, is that we have.
Yeah, no, that's
I think
completely
with
different.
special circumstances, yes, but I think we don't need every single meeting on Zoom for everyone to attend. I
Yeah.
think people need to start coming to these meetings.
Okay.
All right, good talk. Do you need that's just direction on that? Or?
I just wanted to make sure
Okay.
that we understand what we can tell consultants and applicants. It is nice to have an applicant actually here in the boardroom. Mark and Linda have always been here, and I think that's very helpful for them to be here. So, those are things, if you're actually going to develop in Bayfield, it's nice that you're here in Bayfield, so.
Yep.
All right, do we have any board reports? I have.
Well, I would like to say that I thought the flu clinic, the COVID clinic at the senior center was a great success. I know it was mentioned in Ryan's report. The IGA signed by La Plata County and Town of Bayfield. So I know we've been having some discussions on how we can, strengthen our relationship with the seniors and maybe have more regularly planned meetings at the senior center with some of the initiatives and things that the town is doing to make sure all of the seniors are informed. So we're still working out what the details of that are. Phyllis, how many vendors did you get for the event on Saturday?
50.
That's great. Okay. So I'm going to try to stop by. I don't think I can come with food, but.
We're going to have good food there too.
Good. So that should be a really great event, and I hope it's really well attended. And so I mentioned the Pine River Library today. I'm hoping that Brenda Marshall might be able to do a brief presentation to the board of what their findings were from their interviews with it's a lot of town people, but it's a lot of county people that are in their district. But even as we were saying with the senior center, maybe what percentage was town versus what percentage might be just the seniors in the Pine River Valley, like it's. 30 people, 7 were CDP residents. Yeah, so I think that their survey that they kind of hand-picked and reached out, they talked to kids in schools, they talked to seniors, they talked to businesses. I think there's a lot of opportunity, because I know we have liaisons, but I think there's more opportunity for us to have that engagement with different populations and pulling together some of those groups, like having, you know, someone from the school district meeting with someone from the town, with someone from the senior center, with someone from, you know, not-for-profit, like just having more of that synergy as we continue to grow as a community and, you know, get back into come to the meeting in person. There's a lot of items that were brought up through the library that are things I said that we're working on, that are things where I'm like, we should be a part of that discussion. Like, do you know that we're doing this? And it was like, lack of newspaper was a big deal, or how do we communicate? And I was like, yeah, well, we just got a new website, but what about those who don't go to the websites? So yeah, I'd really like for her to present to the board. And I know that that was just an ad hoc thing that she asked me if I would be one of the 70, and then they did a little strategic planning. That's what they're doing. They're trying to plan their budget for next year, so they wanted input from the public. So I thought it was really, really great. I think that's all I have to share.
All right, Brenna, you had a question, you wanna?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to clarify and bring up Marlin Village when we discussed that, and we were talking about alternative action B, that the choice in there does include the fence, the 8-foot fence. It does include the park and lieu fees, and it does include keeping the unit at $250. We just want some
Yeah,
clarification,
thank you.
because it felt like it wasn't verbalized well
Thank
enough.
you.
That was correct. Okay.
Okay. We don't have anything else to add. I will adjourn this meeting. It is 8:33. Thank you all for coming out.
Not bad. 13 minutes past. Way better
Take
than
your
the hour and a
bags.
half it's been.
Take your bags, use your shopping bags.